It's official. GW, Games Workshop, is a worse company than Disney. A bigger, suckier, litigious asshole than the House of the Mouse. Now that is a lifetime achievement, if I've ever seen one, as this came out just recently. Galactic Armory says, all 40k projects will be removed within 48 hours. This time, I'm afraid it is for real. This morning we received an official cease and desist from Games Workshop. Whilst not totally unexpected, it is a huge bummer. I would imagine it wouldn't be totally unexpected, yes, because GW has been on the warpath against, well, their fans, simply straight up, for the last 2 or 3 years now, cracking down on anything and everything that anyone might make that demonstrates a degree of fondness for their setting, as ridiculous as that may be. And, well, we know the reasons, which I'm sure we'll get to during the course of this video, but for a little bit of further context, in case you're unaware, Galactic Armory is a site that produces things like STL files for armor, for example, selling armors for Helldivers, Star Wars, and I think Halo and various other franchises, in addition to some solid pre-printed products where they send you the whole thing, like the DC-15 blaster pistol here. Now, judging by the lack of any official, trademarks or anything like that, I am assuming all of this is technically, non-sanctioned stuff, shall we say, but it is still using all of the official names. Ark and Jet Troopers, famous Captain Rex, DC-17, etc., etc. Now, to get the elephant out of the room immediately, is this copyright infringement? Fuck yes. Is this legally actionable? God yes. Would practically any court on the globe ream these guys for making this? Yes. Does that mean that it is a good thing to sue them or send them cease and desists? No. Why? Because this is simply a commonly understood agreement between all of these companies and all of the fan creators. Theoretically speaking, a simple fan art drawing is a violation of copyright, so long as it includes copyrighted materials like Stormtrooper armor or Darth Vader lightsabers, yada 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 yada, of course. However, the company understands, or usually, except for GW, that it benefits them significantly more to have passionate fans creating awesome stuff for other passionate fans, and then showing it off in conventions and talking positively about the hobby or the setting or whatever, than it is to be massive douchebags about it and cracking down on all of these companies. Even Disney understands this. There was, a few years ago, there was a fan animation made by a fairly major Star Wars YouTube channel using characters like Darth Vader, and initially Disney copyright struck it. But then there was a large fan outrage going no, please don't do that, this is cool shit. And Disney, to their credit, actually backed off. Well, okay, you want to see this? Fine, we're going to pretend we don't see it, because, of course, again, technically, theoretically, if you do not defend your IP, you may very well lose it. That is the sliver of an argument in favor of doing shit like this, but again, this has been a common agreement between the fans and the corporations for decades, that they simply ignore this stuff, with GW being the one to break that ceasefire again and again and again and again, to the point where I'm actually getting a little bit upset with people continuing making fan content for them, and yes, that includes myself and lore videos. It's god damn it, like an abusive spouse getting beaten again and again. They do love us, they just show their love in a weird fashion, but I am actually all for this in one way, because there's also been this coming around, that they have removed the gender language from the Space Marines, and that means we're probably going to get female Space Marines. At this point, yay! I want to see it. I am full accelerationist at this point. The quicker we can make Games Workshop speedrun the Disney experience from being generally beloved to hated by everyone, including random mammals scurrying through the forest, the better. Again, Even Star Wars, despite having official merch themselves that they sell, don't bother with stuff like this because it's just not worth their time. Not to mention, official merch, $400, like $80 for a cap, etc. Meanwhile, these guys, well, they're catering to a very different audience. You might as well do both. There's no harm in it from the corporative's standpoints whatsoever. Now, granted, some of the stuff they're doing, like selling miniatures and being a tabletop board game, let's just say that my politics are far too vehement to ever dare trying to get away with something like that in public, but, etc., etc. Let's move on from that point, shall we, before we get anybody in trouble. The point is, Games Workshop, as we know very well at this point, is not doing this for any logical reason. Again, it damages the fandom, it damages the company's image with the fandom, it achieves very little. Even if you drive these people out of business, what will you gain? Who is going to go like, oh, well, I was going to buy the STL armor, but, well, you know, they've been driven out of business by Disney, so I guess I can't do that. I guess I'm going to buy the official armor for, 400 times the price. No. And the same case with 40k, even more so. 40k aren't making this shit. They're not catering to the cosplay community. This isn't something they even do, although they might be planning to. Now that's a bit more speculative because we can already explain the reason why they do this because of their hatred of the fans. An unironic, general hatred of the people who once made 40k great. We see this in all of GW's actions. They don't want you. They don't want me. They don't want anyone who actually cares about their setting. They don't want anyone who is invested in the fandom, because these are people that complain about their constant retcons, who keep complaining about their poor storytelling as of late, who keep complaining about the falling quality of their content, etc. The shit they put out on Warhammer Plus. We complain because we know better and because we love 40k. GW doesn't want that. They want a new audience. They're becoming a mainstream company now, with a big Amazon TV show on the horizon. They want hundreds and thousands upon thousands of brain-dead consumers who have no frame of reference to 40k whatsoever, who will lap up anything GW shoves down their muzzles. And one of the things, by the way, that I noticed in this lore blurb is how sterile it sounds. There's no more feel of Gothic or 40k. It reads like almost like a modern-day science novel. It's talking about tissue samples, rejection rates. There's no mention of holy incense here, selection process, only picking the bravest, the strongest, anything like that, or a brotherhood. There is no emotional language. This is the exact opposite of the problem with Trench Crusade, which is all pathos, no ethos or logos. Now, we're beginning to strip 40k of all of its pathos, replacing it with only, well, ethos, not even the logos, because the internal logic of the universe is no longer being adhered to. Again, it's because they want to replace their fans. They don't want to move in on the cosplay market. GW isn't thinking that these guys are cornering the market here and earning billions on selling STL helmets. Of course not. They just want to get rid of anything the fandom can use organically. They want to make it as hard as possible for somebody to remain a fan of 40k as a fan. They mainly want you to be a consumer now. That's what they want. Consumers. People who will uncritically purchase whatever the hell is being featured in the latest episode of the Amazon TV show, whatever the hell is in the latest newsletter, who will lap up Warhammer Plus regardless of how garbage it might be, regardless of what characters they might kill off, because the new people won't have any relationship to any of them. No matter the retcons and the changes and the ruinous things they're doing to their own lore now. Again, the stability of 40k's lore was the very thing that attracted most people to 40k. The fact that we had like 2 decades of virtually unchanging lore is now upended in mere months and weeks and a couple of years later. And hey, it's nothing new, right? Although, I will note, amusingly enough, they didn't send these guys a lawsuit, presumably because they're sizable. They've got a good-sized following, they've got a lot of support, they've got a lot of people surrounding them who might be willing to back them up, who might be willing to rally in their favor. Now, they didn't sue these people, they sent them a cease and desist. Which is, of course, intriguing, considering that they sued, what was it, 200-odd companies a few weeks ago for way less than this, not even comparable to this. They sued people selling cup holders that looked mildly grim dark. They sued a person making BattleTech content, for God's sake. Yet, these get away with a cease and desist. Now, this does also make me a little bit suspicious about Games Workshop's future ideas here as well. They might be starting to think that they're almost getting a little bit too much negative PR, but honestly, I think that's wishful thinking at this point. I am fully committed to the idea that GW and 40k, it's lost to us now. They are on their trajectory, the Disney trajectory that I've talked about previously. They're going to see a good decade, probably, of just growth as they become mainstream, as the normies move in and largely do in fact replace us. The Amazon TV show will determine whether or not this green period is 10 or 20 years, but inevitably, absolutely, unavoidably, as demonstrated with Disney and Star Wars, no matter how popular, no matter how beloved, no matter how good a fundamental setting is, it cannot survive the invasion of the normie. It cannot survive the tourist, as they will always drag out and destroy the core of the franchise. They will always be corrosive to the soul of the franchise. Only real fans can ever possibly hope to protect that, because they have an investment not in what they could conceivably get out of the setting, but what it is. Yeah. This is why I often take occasional pot shots at many other content creators who never comment on this, because they are under contract with GW. These are people who view 40k not as a good thing, not as an amazing thing that worth of protecting, but are viewing it as, in essence, a paycheck. It is a gravy train. And they don't really care. They therefore don't really care if it survives forever. They don't give a shit about that. If they can see the long up and then the inevitable decline, well, all they care about, it's a long up. The same is what GW is doing right now, and we have actually modeled this now. Before, with companies like Disney, we didn't know any of this. Now we do. We have demonstrated it with so many other franchises. Once the soul is dead, there is no salvaging it. There's no repairing it. Once you've ruined a thing and chased away all of your original fans, even a fantastic product will no longer draw them back, because you've chased them off into the hands of anyone and everyone else, as is marked here. Thank you all again for your support as we explored a grim dark universe. Stay tuned for a special announcement at the end of the month regarding an adventure in a different grim dark setting. Fans, if you keep abusing them for long enough, will find an alternative. Even if, in some cases, that alternative might actually be worse, as I do suspect they're talking about Trench Crusade, and you know my feelings on that setting by now, I'm sure. Anyways, Games Workshop. On the one hand, it almost feels pointless to even cover it, as we all know what's going on. I'm largely repeating myself from previous videos here, but the decline of GW is something that I've tried to fight against, rather hopelessly so, I've now come to the conclusion of, and yet still something I would like to see not happen, even as I know it's going to happen. And so, if nothing else, it feels worthwhile to at least a degree to point it out, to hold their nose in it, to bring it to a greater degree of attention wherever possible, in the flicker of hope that perhaps there is still some reversing this. I've been Arch. Thank you very much for watching. I hope to see you all again soon. Till then, have a good day.